The Holy Quran, translated in English by Talal Itani, 2021 edition. Web address www.clearquran.org.
Quran Chapter 18. In the name of Allah, the kind, the caring. Praise be to Allah, who revealed the book to his servant, and he allowed no distortion in it. Precious, to warn of severe punishment from him, and to give good news to the believers who do good works, that they'll have an excellent reward, in which they'll stay forever. And to warn those who say, Allah has begotten a son. They don't know this, nor did their ancestors. Outrageous is the word that comes out of their mouths, they say nothing but a lie. You may destroy yourself with grief, chasing after them, if they don't believe in this information. We made what's on earth a decoration for it, to test them, who's best in behavior. We'll reduce what's on it to barren land. Did you know that the people of the cave and inscription were of our amazing signs? The young men took shelter in the cave and prayed, Our Lord, be kind to us, and bless our cause with guidance. Then we sealed their ears in the cave for several years. Then we woke them up, to see which of the two groups could better estimate the duration of their stay. We'll tell you their story exactly as it happened. They were young men who had faith in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance. We strengthened their hearts as they stood up, saying, Our Lord is Lord of heavens and earth. We'll never worship gods beside him, for that would be an outrageous lie. Our people have taken gods below him, without any clear evidence. Who's more wicked than he who invents lies about Allah? Now that you've distanced yourselves from them and from what they worship besides Allah, seek refuge in the cave. Your Lord will extend his mercy on you, and he will make things easy for you. You could see the sun, as it rose, veering to the right of their cave, and when it set, veering away from them to the left, as they lay in the cave's midst. These were signs of your Lord. Whoever is guided by Allah is guided correctly. And whoever goes astray won't find a guiding mentor. You would think they were awake, but they were asleep. We kept turning them from right to left, and their dog stretched out his paws on the threshold. If you had looked at them, you would have been filled with fear, and you would have fled from them. Finally, we woke them up, and they wondered. One of them asked, How long did you stay? They replied, We stayed for a day or part of a day. They said, Your Lord knows better how long you stayed. Send someone with this silver coin to the city to buy pure food, and have him bring supplies. And let him be quiet, and make no one aware of you. If they find you, they'll stone you or force you back into their religion. Then you'll never succeed. So it was, we brought them to people's attention, so that they may know that Allah's promise is true. And there's no doubt about the hour. As they argued about them, they said, Build a building over them. Their Lord knows them best. But those who prevailed over the case said, We'll build a house of prayer over them. They'll say, 3, and their dog was the 4th. And they'll say, 5, and their dog was the 6th, guessing the unknown. And they'll say, 7, and their dog was their 8th. Say, My Lord knows their number best. Only a few know them. So don't discuss them or ask anyone else about them, but say what's known. And never say about anything, I'll do this tomorrow, without adding, Allah willing. And remember your Lord when you forget, and say, I hope my Lord will guide me to right conduct, ever closer. They remained in their cave for 300 years, plus 9. Say, only Allah knows how long they stayed. To Him belongs the mystery of the heavens and the earth. As He sees well, as He hears well. They have no guardian other than Him, and He shares His sovereignty with no one. Recite what was revealed to you of your Lord's book. No one can change His words. You'll find no refuge, except with Him. Stay with those who pray to their Lord morning and evening, desiring His attention. And don't turn your eyes away from them, desiring the delights of this world. And don't obey the one whose heart we made oblivious to our remembrance, so he follows his desires, and his priorities are confused. Say, the truth is from your Lord. Whoever wills, let him believe. And whoever wills, let him not believe. We prepared for the wicked a fire, its curtains will surround them. When they plead for relief, they are relieved with water like molten metal that roasts their faces, a horrible drink and an unbearable home. As for the believers who do good deeds, we won't waste the reward of the workers of righteousness. They'll have the gardens of bliss, with streams flowing beneath them. They'll be decorated with gold bracelets. They'll wear green dresses with silk embroidery and rich patterns. They'll recline on couches. What an excellent reward, a fantastic home. Tell them the parable of 2 men. To one of them, we gave 2 vineyards, surrounded by palm trees, and crops in their midst. Both gardens produced abundant harvests, never falling short. And we made a river flow through them. He had other resources. He told his friend while chatting with him, I have more wealth and a bigger family than you. He entered his garden with these bad thoughts, saying, I don't think these will ever perish. And I don't think the hour will come. And even if I'm returned to my Lord, I will find something better than that. His friend said to him while chatting with him, Are you ungrateful to the one who created you from dust, then from a drop, and then developed you into a man? As for me, He is Allah, my Lord, and I never associate anyone with my Lord. If only, when you entered your garden, you had said, This is what Allah willed. There is power only through Allah. Even though you see me inferior to you in wealth and children, perhaps my Lord will give me better than your garden. He can trigger a flash of the sky against it and turn it into an arid wasteland. Or sink its waters deep into the ground, and you won't be able to reach it. So his fruits were destroyed. And there he was, wringing his hands, regretting what he had spent on it. The trellises had fallen. And he said, I wish I never associated anyone with my Lord. No labor could help him against Allah, nor could he defend himself. This is because authority belongs to Allah, the real. He produces the best reward and the best result. Tell them the parable of the worldly life. Like rain, we send it from the sky. The soil absorbs it, plants grow, and then they become debris scattered by the wind. Allah has absolute power over everything. Wealth and children are the ornaments of this life. But the things that last, the good deeds, are better with your Lord for reward and better for hope. On the day when we set the mountains in motion, and you see the earth emerging, and we gather them together, and leave none of them behind. They'll be presented before your Lords in rows. You came to us as we first created you. Although you thought we wouldn't be meeting you. The document will be spread out, and you'll see the guilty fearing its contents. They'll say, "Woe to us, what kind of document is this, that leaves nothing, small or big, but it has recorded it?" They'll find everything they did before them. Your Lord isn't unjust to anyone. We said to the angels, "Bow down before Adam." So they bowed down, except Iblis. He was a demon, and he disobeyed his Lord's order. Will you take him and his descendants for friends instead of me, even though they're your enemies? What a miserable alternative the Avilders have chosen. I didn't make them witness the creation of the heavens and the earth, nor their own creation. And I don't take the misleaders as assistants. The day he will say, "Call on those you thought were my partners." They'll appeal to them, but they won't answer them. We'll place a cliff between them. The criminals will see the fire, and they'll realize that they'll fall into it. They'll find no deliverance from it. We explained in this Quran all kinds of lessons for people, but the human being is very argumentative. What prevents people from believing and seeking their Lord's forgiveness when the guidance came to them? Are they waiting for the fate of the earlier generations? Or are they waiting for the punishment to be brought right before them? We sent messengers to bring good news and warnings. Unbelievers put forward false arguments to discredit the truth. They take my verses and the warnings as a joke. Who's more unjust than he who's reminded of his Lord's verses, but then turns away from them? And he forgets what his hands prepared. We put veils over their minds, so that they can't understand it, and heaviness in their ears. And if you invite them for guidance, they'll never be guided. Your Lord is the forgiving, full of mercy. If he had punished them for what they did, the punishment would have come sooner. But they have an appointment they can't escape. We destroyed these cities, because they did evil. We fixed the time of their destruction. When Moses said to his young assistant, "I will travel until I reach the place where the two seas meet, however long it takes." When they reached it, they forgot about the fish. It quietly made its way into the sea and swam away. He said to his assistant when they had gone further, "Bring our meal, our journey exhausted us." He said, "Remember when we rested by the rock? I forgot about the fish. No one but Satan made me forget it." And amazingly, it made its way to the sea. He said, "This is what we were looking for." So they turned around, carefully retracing their steps. There they found one of our servants, whom we blessed with mercy, and we taught him of our good conduct. Moses asked him, "May I follow you, so that you may teach me something of the guidance you were taught?" He replied, "You won't be able to endure with me. And how will you endure what you don't know?" He said, "Allah willing, you'll find me patient, and I won't disobey your orders." He said, "If you must follow me, don't ask me questions, until I have clarified things for you." So they left. Until, when they got on a boat, he made a hole in it. He said, "Did you make a hole in it to drown the passengers? You did something awful." He said, "Didn't I say you can't endure with me?" He replied, "Don't be too hard on me for forgetting, and don't make my task any more difficult." Then they left. Until, when they came across a young boy, he killed him. He said, "Did you kill an innocent person, who did nothing wrong? You did something terrible." He said, "Didn't I tell you that you can't endure with me?" He said, "If I ask you anything after this, don't keep me in your company. You have a valid excuse from me." Then they left. When they arrived at a village, they asked the villagers for food, but they refused to give them hospitality. They found a wall that was about to collapse, and he repaired it. He said, "You could have asked for a payment, if you wanted to." He replied, "Now we must go separate ways. I'll tell you the interpretation of what you couldn't endure. As for the boat, it belonged to poor people working at sea. I damaged it because a king was coming after them, seizing every boat by force. As for the boy, his parents were believers, and we feared that he would overwhelm them with rebellion and unbelief. We wanted their Lord to replace him with someone more honest and caring. As for the wall, it belonged to 2 orphan boys from the city. Underneath it was their treasure. Their father was a righteous man. Your Lord wanted them to grow up and then bring out their treasure, as a mercy from your Lord. What I did wasn't done by my will." That was the interpretation of the events you couldn't endure patiently. They ask you about Zul-Qarnayn. Say, "I'm going to tell you part of his story. We established him in the land, and we gave him the means to achieve great things. Then he went on an expedition. Until, when he reached sunset, he found it setting in a murky spring, and he found people there. We said, 'Zul-Qarnayn, you can scold them or be nice to them.' He said, 'Whoever does evil will penalize him, then he will be sent back to his Lord, and he will punish him with a dreadful torment. But whoever believes and acts righteously, he will have the finest reward, and will ask him to perform easy tasks.' Then he left for an expedition. Until, when he reached sunrise, he found people living in the open air, without any shelter. So it was. We knew everything about him. Then he left for an expedition. Until, when he reached between the 2 barriers, he found people who could barely understand a word. They said, 'Zul-Qarnayn, Gog and Magog are ravaging the land. Can we pay you to build a wall between us?' He answered, 'The strength my Lord gave me is sufficient. But help me with labor, and I'll build a barrier between you and them. Bring me blocks of iron.' When he had filled the space between the 2 cliffs, he said, 'Blow.' And when he had made it like fire, he said, 'Bring me tar to pour over it.' Now, they can't get over it, and they can't get through it. He said, 'This is my Lord's kindness.' So when my Lord's promise is fulfilled, he will reduce it to dust. My Lord's promise is true. That day, we'll leave them to surge over each other. The trumpet will be blown, and we'll gather them together. That day, we'll present the unbelievers to hell, all displayed. Those whose eyes were veiled from my remembrance, and were unable to hear. Do unbelievers think they can take my servants for lords instead of me? We prepared hell as hospitality for unbelievers. Say, shall we tell you about the deeds of the worst losers? Those whose efforts in this world are misguided, but they presume to do good works. It's they who reject their Lord's communications, and in the meeting with him. So their works are in vain. And on resurrection day, we'll consider them insignificant. Hell is their revenge, because they disbelieved and took my revelations and messengers for a joke. But the believers who do good deeds will have the gardens of paradise for hospitality, where they'll dwell forever, not wanting any change. Say, if the ocean became ink for my Lord's words, the ocean would run out, before my Lord's words ended, even if we added ocean upon ocean. Say, I'm a human being like you, being inspired that your God is one God. Whoever hopes to meet his Lord, let him work righteousness, and never associate anyone with the worship of his Lord.